Let's get it fucking started. This is going to be a review of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Full spoilers. I don't believe in spoiler-free reviews. There are plenty of other people that have done that. I am not one of those people. I believe to get the best book reviews, you have to give the spoilers. There's so many other places that will give you spoiler-free book reviews. Let's fucking get into this. I have a lot of thoughts about this book. I would just like to say that this is not going to be some great literary analysis. This is just going to be me giving my honest thoughts and feelings about Wuthering Heights. This is the first time that I have read this book. I'm 22, and I think a lot of classic literature is best read when you're like an adult because you can actually understand a lot more of what's going on. Like, I understood The Picture of Dorian Gray so much better than I would have if I had tried reading it when I was like 13. Revisiting a lot of stuff when you get older gets a little bit easier to understand the concepts and what the authors wanted. But this is not going to be some intellectual view. This is going to be me gossiping about Wuthering Heights as if I'm talking about like 21st century celebrity gossip. Let's start with the characters. Okay, I'm going to talk about our main two narrators because it's really like one person. Wuthering Heights is a frame story, meaning it's a story within a story. You have the main story and then you have like the stories underneath, which is just like the second narration that takes place 25 years prior. We have Lockwood, who is writing in his diary a narrative being told to him by a woman named Ellen Dean. She's also called Nellie. She's worked for both of the families, the Earnshaws and the Linton family. The Earnshaws live at Wuthering Heights and the Lintons live at, you would think that I would remember this. I pulled up a family tree to make sure I get all of this right. I'll put a picture of it like right here or something. I don't know. Then we have Ellen Dean, who was present for the past story that she's telling Lockwood about because he asks about Heathcliff, the owner of Thrushcross Grange and Wuthering Heights in 1801 and 1802. This takes place in the 1780s. This second story between the two families, the Earnshaws and the Lintons. So with the Earnshaws, we have old Mr. Earnshaw, and then we have his wife who is dead. And then we have Hindley Earnshaw. And then we have Catherine Earnshaw. I'm going to call her Catherine the First or Cathy the First. There's a reason why I'm calling her Catherine or Cathy. I'll make sure that you guys know the difference, okay? So then we have Frances, Hindley Earnshaw's wife, and then they had a son. I don't know exactly how to say his name. Is it Hareton? I'm gonna say Hareton Earnshaw, and if that's not how you say his name, I don't fucking care. For the Linton family, we have Edgar Linton, and then we have Isabella Linton. We also have Heathcliff. And when I say Heathcliff is just Heathcliff, I mean that's it. That's like his first name, his middle name, and his last name, because there's no other name for him. He doesn't have another one. These two families have lived at these two places for a long, long time. You could argue that they're one of their ancestral homes. How does stroke taste? Like burnt fucking toast, apparently. Anyways, so both families are kind of rivals in a way, but not really. They're neighbors. And I say neighbors because they have a ton of land and it's like a mile or two of me too. Whatever. It doesn't matter. They're both wealthy socialites. You have both families. Nellie tells Lockwood because Lockwood visits Thrushcross Grange. I'm going to call it the Grange, where he's a tenant of Heathcliff's at this point in the story. It's 1801. So then he falls ill and like asks about whatever. He meets Mr. and Mrs. Heathcliff, but they're not the same Heathcliffs because again, there's two generations present in this story. Technically three, but I'm not counting the parents of these characters. I'm just talking about the characters and then their children. Now, where was I? Okay, so you have Hindley and Catherine, and Nellie tells Lockwood this as a narrative. So it starts when old Mr. Earnshaw goes to Liverpool and he brings back Heathcliff, and Hindley fucking hates him, loathes this boy. Interestingly, that this is constantly brought up is Heathcliff's appearance, because Heathcliff does not look like a typical English person. He's dark skinned. And the thing is, when a white English person says dark skin, it kind of depends. But in this time, in the beginning of the Regency period, at the end of the Georgian period, Dark skin was considered tan skin whether you were English or not. Heathcliff didn't speak English when Earnshaw found him, so there's a lot of speculation that he's Romani. I'm not gonna say the G word that they use, even though I myself have that heritage. I do not look like I have that heritage, nor am I wasn't really raised in it either, so I'm not gonna be like, oh, well, I have this heritage, but he has dark skin, he has eyes that are considered almost black, and he has black hair. He's treated so fucking poorly because of this, and I hate it. And from the beginning, Heathcliff is not a nice person. He and Hindley do not get along. They fucking hate each other. Hindley is more at fault because why the fuck are you bullying? Why are you bullying somebody younger than you? Like, that's stupid. So Heathcliff is also very intelligent. He's very, very smart. He's just very foul-tempered, foul-mouthed. Like, he's a hellion. And so is Catherine. And they are thick as fucking thieves. The minute that Catherine and Heathcliff meet, it's like this. That like two peas in a pod, you cannot separate them. Heathcliff and Catherine fall in love, and then Catherine's like, I can't fucking marry this man. Like, he is just, no. And here's where my hatred of Ellen starts. Because as Catherine is confessing that, like, she could never marry Heathcliff, Nellie knows that Heathcliff is listening. He fucking is listening from the kitchen. And Nellie's just like, as Catherine's like, Jesus fuck, I can't marry this guy. He's not in my social status. He's not in my social class. Nellie, you can't tell him this. You cannot tell him that. I'm asking you in confidence to please not tell him. And I won't lie, Catherine is a fucking brat. She's not a nice person. She's spoiled. She's selfish. She's mean as hell. None of these characters are like redeeming characters, okay? None of them are very nice. And Ellen tries to portray herself as some angel, kind person. Objectively, the only half-decent person in this story is Lockwood, because he's acting as the audience. I put that in quotes because the story is also being filtered through him. So you're getting like two filters of a story. Anyways, so basically they grow up, and then after Catherine is like, oh, I can't marry this man, Heathcliff bolts. Heathcliff fucking runs. And he disappears for 3 years. 3 fucking years. And in this point in time, Catherine marries Edgar Linton and goes to live with Edgar and his sister Isabella and the Linton family at the Grange, and then Wuthering Heights is whatever. And then Heathcliff shows up, and it's just all downhill from there. Nellie, is that you? It was a deep voice and foreign in tone, yet there was something in the manner of pronouncing my name which made it sound familiar. I turned about to discover who spoke, fearfully, for the doors were shut, and I had seen nobody on approaching the steps. Something stirred in the porch, and moving nearer, I distinguished a tall man dressed in dark clothes, with dark face and hair. He leaned against the side, and held his fingers on the latch, as if intending to open for himself. Who can it be? I thought. Mr. Earnshaw? Oh, no. The voice has no resemblance to his. I have waited here an hour, he resumed, while I continued staring. And the whole of that time all round has been as still as death. I dared not enter. You do not know me? Look, I'm not a stranger. A ray fell on his features. The cheeks were sallow and half covered with black whiskers, the brows lowering, the eyes deep-set and singular. I remembered the eyes. What? What? I cried, uncertain whether to regard him as a worldly visitor, and I raised my hands in amazement. What? You have come back? Is it really you? Is it? Yes, Heathcliff, he replied, glancing from me up to the windows, which reflected a score of glittering moons, but showed no lights from within. Are they at home? Where is she? Nellie, you are not glad. You needn't be so disturbed. Is she here? Speak! I want to have one word with her. Your mistress, go, and say some person from Gimmerton desires to see her. The first thing that he does when he gets back, immediately he's like, where the fuck is the love of my life? He's so real for that. I get it. Catherine has convinced herself that she's in love with Edgar, even though she knows that she's never actually gonna really be in love with him. It was kind of just like, yeah, I guess. And then when Heathcliff comes back, Catherine's like, Heathcliff? And it doesn't like explicitly say, this is just like my own little, like putting my own little thoughts in there. I think that they done did the do a couple times. That's just me inserting my own thoughts into the story, because some of the language feels like it hints to more than just kissing when Catherine and Heathcliff see each other, when Edgar's like, okay, fucking fine, I guess you guys can see each other, whatever. Edgar is kind of annoying, actually. He's supposed to be a foil of Heathcliff. Edgar has blonde hair, blue eyes, light skin. He's refined, he's educated, he's a lot nicer. He's kind of a piece of shit, to be honest, because he lets Isabella, his younger sister, marry Heathcliff, because Heathcliff goes over to the Grange and he's talking with Catherine, and Isabella's like, I want to say she's like 17 at the time, something like that. They're all like 18, 19 at the oldest when all this is happening. Like, holy fucking shit. This is literally a teen drama. This is a teen fucking drama. Not even like the CW could make something as good as this. And they made Riverdale. Like, arguably one of the weirdest fucking shows that I've had the misfortune of learning about against my will after watching season 1 and then half of season 2 and going, I'm done with this. Anyways, did I really just say that Wuthering Heights is the Regency equivalent of Riverdale? Oh my god. Anyways, so then Heathcliff manipulates Isabella, knowing that she has a crush on him. They get married, and then Isabella, like, is miserable because Heathcliff is physically abusive. He is not only mentally and emotionally abusive, he's verbally and physically abusive. Like, good fucking God. I feel so bad for this woman. And Edgar, this whole time, is just like, yeah, she fucking deserves it, because Edgar does not like Heathcliff. He loathes Heathcliff. He's just a little bit better at keeping that to himself, which I'll give him credit for, because the whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, I want to strangle Heathcliff. I want to fucking strangle this man. Let a bitch talk like that to me. Oh my God. Okay. So then eventually Catherine falls pregnant, and then she gives birth to Catherine Linton, or Cathy Linton, Catherine II, if you will. And then eventually Catherine I just dies. She never recovered from giving birth, and she was also like so emotionally distraught over Heathcliff and like seeing him again and her feelings that she just, you know. And then eventually Isabella fucks off to like London or something, or wherever else she goes off to. I don't really remember where she goes. She has a son. His name is Linton Heathcliff. It's fucking stupid. What kinds of names are these? Miss Bronte, what were you thinking? So she dies. She gets sick, I'm assuming with consumption, tuberculosis, something like that, because Emily Bronte died of tuberculosis. Very sad. The whole Bronte family deserves like their own video, but this is a book review. So anyways, Linton gets sent to live with Heathcliff. Good fucking God. Linton's a piece of shit too. Hareton, you're probably wondering, where the fuck did he go? He was pretty much raised by Joseph, who is the Earnshaw's, like, one of the servants, I guess. And Ellen, as she's narrating this, talks about how wherever she basically goes where her mistress goes. So she worked at Wuthering Heights, and then she went to the Grange, and then she went back to Wuthering Heights, and then back to the Grange, and then like back and forth constantly. This whole time, Ellen is like being a piece of shit and like constantly telling, like, Isabella's trying. I don't even know at this point. Like, there's a point where at the beginning of the book, I forgot to mention this, Lockwood sees Catherine like Catherine Earnshaw's ghost, because he's in her old bedroom at Wuthering Heights. And then Heathcliff sees her, and he's like, what the fuck? And that's where you get the iconic line of, you said I killed you. Haunt me then. Be with me always. Take any form. Drive me mad. Only do not leave me in this abyss where I cannot find you. I go feral over that line. Regardless of how I feel about Heathcliff and the Earnshaws in this story, nobody writes a line quite like that. I think about that constantly. Like, I'll just be chilling, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, when is it my turn for that? I am not condoning Heathcliff's behavior, by the way. I'm just saying that I adore that line. Okay, anyways, so basically, Linton is a very puny, weak dude. And then Cathy Linton, Catherine Earnshaw's daughter, Cathy II, goes over and marries Linton. She marries her cousin. Cousin fuckers all around. Why is England so full of incest? Regardless, Heathcliff quite literally traps Cathy in the house after she marries. And it just, Eventually, Linton dies after I want to say a year at most. When I tell you that this boy is so sickly and weak, Heathcliff's literally you mean to fucking tell me this is my kid? And at some point, I was like, you know what? I don't blame him, because I would be like, dog, what? I'm honest to God surprised that Linton made it to 16. I'm so surprised with the way that he's described in being so brutally fragile. I am surprised he does not die sooner. It's a fucking miracle he lived that long. So then eventually, Cathy Linton goes on to marry Hareton Earnshaw, who is also her cousin. God's sake. Hareton is very uneducated. He quite literally can't read. And then he learns, and you know what? That's great. The fucking amazing. They don't have any children. Hareton's 5 years older than Cathy, so I think she's 18 and he's 23, which I'm 22, and the thought of being romantically attracted to an 18-year-old kind of makes me feel sick. Ugh. Times were different, but I don't fucking care. So I'm gonna judge this through a modern lens. Anyways, so then they marry, and then we're caught up. It's 1804 at this point, and Ellen's oh yeah, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with Heathcliff. He's depraved. He's starving himself. He won't eat, he won't sleep, he won't drink. Heathcliff confesses to Ellen that after Catherine died, Catherine Earnshaw, or Catherine Linton, Cathy Linton's mother, he went to the churchyard and dug up her body, and then he reburied her. Stupid. And then eventually Heathcliff dies, and he's 38 at this point. And then it kind of just ends afterwards. It ends with the manor in disarray. And the whole time I'm reading this, I'm thinking, holy mother of fucking God, this is fucked up and I love it. Also, Hindley dies from alcoholism, I believe. And then Ellen says she saw two figures, which we can assume are Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff, finally united in love. What a fucking novel. I don't think I can read a modern romance that's not a fan fiction and be oh yeah, this is so good. Nobody does gothic romance quite like Emily Bronte. Really the Bronte sisters, but specifically Emily Bronte, because Jane Eyre is not a romance novel in my opinion. It's a thriller. That's crazy. Anyways, I just cannot get over the fact that Heathcliff manipulates Isabella, abuses her, mistreats her this entire time. Oh my God. And then Ellen, my biggest qualm with this book is Ellen. I know that the Lintons and the Earnshaws are not that great of people. My biggest problem is Ellen, or Nellie, pretending she's some kind of fucking saint the whole time. She's I'm trying to be fair and neutral on both sides. Fuck you, Nellie Dean. No, you're not. You are a backstabbing piece of shit. Because why are you going and telling Heathcliff what his daughter-in-law and niece is saying? Why are you not trying to help her out? Oh my God. Literally slapping Catherine Earnshaw. Fuck you. I really dislike Nellie. My biggest problem with this book was Nellie. I want to talk about this theory that Heathcliff is some sort of supernatural creature, because the way that Nellie describes him after he disappears, because Nellie doesn't nobody recognizes Heathcliff when he comes back. Okay, so this is from October 21st, 2016. And the title is Wuthering Heights in brackets. Heathcliff successfully... Oh, I should give a warning for this. This is going to be talking about suicide. So if you don't like that, I will give a timestamp on the screen. You can skip to the end of this section if that bothers you. Take care of yourselves. So this post is by user Trigger Expert from 7 years ago. And the title is in brackets, Wuthering Heights. And then Heathcliff successfully committed suicide halfway through the story. And it's so cool. So I'm just going to read parts of it. It says, when Catherine Earnshaw reveals to Nellie that she's going to marry Edgar Linton, Heathcliff listens and storms off in the middle of the night. We're supposed to believe that Heathcliff somehow returns 3 years later as a wealthy man. None of this makes any genuine sense. Where could Heathcliff, having no education to speak of and no connections, suddenly make such a fortune? In reality, Heathcliff went out in the middle of the night and hung himself, his body presumably never being found. What returns is not Heathcliff at all, but rather his spirit that sets out to take revenge and has access to supernatural means by which to do so. He might have a physical body, but he has already died. So then in the second paragraph, this person says, when he returns 3 years later, it's clear that Nellie can barely believe it's genuinely Heathcliff. Upon first seeing him, she mentions that she questions whether he's really a worldly visitor. Then when Catherine sees him, she questions whether it's a dream or not. The first thing Heathcliff mentions then is that he considered simply visiting to see Catherine, then kill Hindley Earnshaw, who turned him from a brother into a servant, then kill himself. In other words, Heathcliff hints at being suicidal. Nellie and Catherine hint at Heathcliff not being real. Finally, we notice that Heathcliff has a habit of reenacting his death. When he marries Isabella Linton, he hangs her dog, then tells her he wishes he could hang every being belonging to her except one. So then towards the end of the book, that's the end of the post that I'm gonna insert my own thoughts like right now. At the end of the book, when Nellie talks about Heathcliff's appearance and like how ghostly he looks because he's like pale, he's emaciated. I thought he starved himself to death at first, and then I read this post and I went, ooh, wait a damn minute. So then the post goes on to say, Nellie confirms at the end of the book that he has a frightening, almost supernatural appearance before his death. She wondered whether he was some sort of supernatural creature or whether she was imagining it at all. She even mentioned explicitly that she wondered if he's a vampire or not. Heathcliff is in fact a vampire in traditional folklore, which would have been Emily's only accessible source to base her concept of a vampire on back in 1846. Suicide victims are a common way for vampires to come into existence. Thus, when Heathcliff committed suicide as a teenage boy, his return 3 years later was as the supernatural entity that set out to take revenge on the living. And honestly, that's a pretty fucking badass theory to have. I really think that it's just Heathcliff being a mentally ill, unhinged, suicidal man. Passively suicidal, and then he eventually did end up killing himself because at the time it wasn't as much known. Could have also got consumption of some kind and then just like died before that could like really kill him, because his appearance is similar to those that did have consumption with like the paleness, the red under eyes, the emaciation, except he dies from like before tuberculosis could like drown him. I thought that was such a fascinating theory because God, this is such a good fucking book. I found this book to be absolutely fantastic. It was fascinating. It was honestly kind of chilling because like if you think about it, like the moors and everything, I want to see the moors so fucking bad. Oh, I hate living in the desert sometimes. Anyways, I just couldn't get over the amount of shitty, spoiled brat behavior and the amount of incest. That was really unexpected. I'm like, this is like 2 for 2 now. Like, why is this a thing? Why is there so much fucking incest in these classic literature books? Like, come on. I do like that it explored darker themes of like jealousy, possession, abuse, fatal love, fatal attraction, if you will. Like, I thought that was really, really cool. I wouldn't call these two star-crossed lovers, I just wanted to ramble and rave about it as I explain the story. Maybe this is less of a book review and more just like a modern retelling of Wuthering Heights. I don't know. I just wanted to talk shit about it, really. This is kind of just like a little literature review. That's it. Now I can truly appreciate Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush. And I'm gonna go watch the video now because I fucking love that woman. I love her music so much. Anyways, thank you for listening to me talk about a book. I like not having to do a ton of thinking with my videos sometimes, and I think that's kind of apparent after I do a video like r/to rate me and my experience with that. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video. Get off your phone, go outside, drink some water, and tell me one book that was completely unexpected and not what you thought it was going to be at all. Okay, bye.